Today, we're diving into a design philosophy that's thousands of years old, one that sees our homes not just as buildings, but as living, breathing things connected to the entire universe. Just for a second, think about your own place, the way the furniture is laid out, where the windows are. But what if every single one of those choices was part of some grand cosmic blueprint? Well, for thousands of years, an ancient Indian system has been trying to do exactly that. It's called Vastu Vidya, and it's a fascinating way of looking at the spaces we live in. To really get a handle on Vastu Vidya, we have to start big. I mean, really big. We have to think about architecture on a cosmic scale. So, what is Vastu Vidya at its heart? It's this idea that in a building, nothing happens by accident. The direction your kitchen faces, the shape of your land, the height of the ceiling, it's all connected. It's all woven together to create a space that's literally in harmony with the cosmos. So, how in the world do you actually map the universe onto a piece of land? Well, it all starts with something called a sacred blueprint. Right at the very center of this whole philosophy is a special diagram, a kind of cosmic map. It's called the Vastu Purusha Mandala. And honestly, this is the key to understanding everything. Now that name sounds like a mouthful, I know, but let's break it down real quick. Vastu is just the building, the physical site. Purusha refers to this idea of a cosmic being, like a universal spirit. And mandala is the sacred diagram that puts it all together. So you're looking at the diagram of the cosmic being on the building site. Simple as that. And the myth behind how this diagram came to be is pretty amazing. It starts with a perfect square, which represents total order. Inside that square is a formless cosmic being, the Purusha. The story goes that different gods came and pressed down on this being, pinning him to the earth. And the points where each god pressed down created a grid. And that grid becomes the sacred blueprint for the building, mapping all these divine energies onto the physical land. Okay, so we've got this incredible mystical diagram. But how does that actually help you figure out where to put the kitchen? That brings us to our next part, aligning with the universe. This is where the rubber really meets the road. The mandala assigns specific energies and qualities to different directions. So, for example, the northeast is tied to Jupiter and the element of water. It represents purity, wisdom, so it's the perfect spot for a prayer room. Makes sense, right? Then you have the southeast, ruled by Venus and fire. It's all about heat and energy, so naturally that's where the kitchen goes. The southwest is connected to the earth, giving it a heavy, stable energy, great for a master bedroom. And the northwest, linked to air and movement, is ideal for a guest room. And look, these weren't just vague suggestions. The ancient texts laid out very real consequences. Take this quote. It directly connects the physical slope of the land to a specific feeling, a specific outcome. It shows you just how much every single detail was believed to matter. This all sounds incredibly thought out, very harmonious, but it brings up a huge question. How on earth does a system based on ancient myths and cosmic forces fit into our world of concrete, steel, and building permits? This comparison really gets to the heart of the challenge. On one hand, you had the ancient master builder, the Sthapati. This person was a mathematician, an astrologer, a craftsman. They knew the theory and the practice. They were part of a unified tradition. Now, compare that to the modern architect. They're often trained in Western styles, dealing with totally new materials, juggling client demands and city regulations. And often, they're struggling to figure out how tradition fits into all of that. And this tension really came to a head after India's independence. Here you have Prime Minister Nehru talking about the new city of Chandigarh in 1959. He was all for this modernist approach, celebrating it as a way to break free from the past and forge a new path forward. But, and this is what's so fascinating, at that very same conference, another architect argued for the complete opposite. They made the case that true progress isn't about breaking from the past, but about creating an architecture that grows right out of the local soil, out of its history, climate, and culture. And that debate is still going on today. So where does all of this leave Vastu Vidya now? Well, it's kind of everywhere, in all these different forms. You have modern architects who use the mandala as a symbolic tool to organize their designs. You have professional Vastu consultants who advise on everything from skyscrapers to factories. There's this huge resurgence of public interest in harmonious living. But at the same time, you have these intense debates about whether it's a science or just a superstition. Really, the whole conversation around Vastu is part of a much bigger search for what it means to have an Indian identity in our globalized world. And that leaves us with the central question, doesn't it? Is Vastu Vidya a timeless science for living in harmony, a kind of forgotten wisdom? Or is it a beautiful tradition that's struggling to find its place in a world that might have already moved on? The answer, it seems, is still being built.